All right, settling down, settling down. We are waiting for everyone to start coming in. We will start in a couple of minutes. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the 4th Global Conference of the One Planet Network Sustainable Food System Program. I hope everyone is comfortable in your seats. My name is Dada Bakudo. I work as a technical expert for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations on climate change and agri-food system, and today I'm going to be your 3-day moderator, or 4-day overall moderator for this whole event on behalf of Vietnam Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. We're very happy to see a lot of you here. Welcome to the authorities, delegations, speakers, on-site and online participants. And thank you so much to the organizers for this very big event that has come together today. So all the organizers, the logos are, you can see all of them at the bottom of this page. Next slide, please. So if you are like me, who's new to the One Planet Network, let's have a brief introduction of the One Planet Network. Next slide, please. So the Sustainable Food System Program is one of the 6 thematic multi-actor platform of the 10-year framework of program on sustainable consumption production patterns, now known as the One Planet Network. It's mandated by heads of state at Rio +20 UN Sustainable Development Conference. It's recognized as a very important implementation mechanism for the implementation of SDG 12, and it reports to the UN's high-level political forum on sustainable development. The One Planet Network Sustainable Food System Program was founded originally by FAO and UNEP, and at the moment it has over 190 members from all actor groups. Currently, it is being co-led by 3 important organizations: Ministerial de Agricultura, Ganadería de Costa Rica, by the Swiss government, and by WWF. Next slide, please. The One Planet Network Sustainable Food System Program goal The same way for all of us is to accelerate the shift towards sustainable food system. And why is this so? Because right now, we are all experiencing that humankind is confronted with multiple deeply rooted interlinked crises, right? We're all aware of them, including in relation to hunger, malnutrition, health, climate, biodiversity, a host of crises that is facing us right now. The most important thing to remember is the interlinkages of all these crises. So more than ever, global food system challenges call for a profound and swift transformation of how we produce, process, retail, consume food, and dispose waste. And I think all of us here in the room are somehow responsible for several aspects of what we have just mentioned. Next slide, please. So the conference objectives naturally want to respond to these challenges that have been laid out to us. We wanted to hear transformational actions, tools, and initiatives that have emerged since the UN Food System Summit. This conference also wanted to promote the food systems approach and inclusive governance and collaboration at all levels. We wanted to understand how we're actually gonna implement food system. And lastly, the objective is to provide a space for national conveners. There's a lot of you here in the room, UNFSS coalitions and other relevant multi-actor initiatives, as well as other food systems actions, such as youth, civil society, and farmer organizations. Hopefully the conference objectives are all clear to us, right? We've seen it in the website as well. Next slide, please. So, in short, the conference really hope that it will look at how food systems need to be transformed, and not just how, but why and how, to overcome this multiple related crisis that was just mentioned, and to minimize the risk of global collapse and achieve the SDG 12. So our organizers are very hardworking organizers, have really developed a program that's spread out over these few days. Let me take you through quickly before I hand over to official welcome. Let me take you very quickly to how the organizers have divided the days. Today, we are going to have this opening session, which hopes to set the scene. And then session 2, right after that, will be rethinking the global governance and architecture for food systems, which of course is very important. And session 3 for today as well is revisiting national and subnational governance and policies. So we move from the global to the national actors. And it's very emphasized to me that everyone is welcome to the dinner, that even though you have not been given a formal invitation, please, the dinner will be here at 7 o'clock in this very same room today. And tomorrow, we are going to look at different patterns of consumption and production systems. That starts with session 4. I will be moderating that, I think, tomorrow. And session 5 will be promoting the transformation through science, finance, human rights, and innovation. I think tackling a lot of the how. And on Wednesday, this is an exciting day, I think. There will be a lot of learning journeys. I hope you have signed up for some of the learning journeys that will take place. We'll discover more of Vietnam this way. And session 6 will be looking at mobilizing the UN Food System Summit's ecosystem of support. We wanted to understand how to really engage with that. And session 7 is measuring transformation. For, again, a very exciting event in the evening. You are also all again invited. You don't need a formal invitation for a cultural dinner event. I think the details of this we will share with you later. And finally, this should be Thursday and not Tuesday. Thursday on April 27, there will be a very important session 8 dialogue of all the national conveners. And we will conclude and have a closing ceremony, which promises to be an exciting one. So that's how our hardworking organizers have developed this program, and we hope that you will get the most out of it in this 4-day session. So let's get on right into the business of opening and setting the scene. Before I ask our host country to speak, I think there is a video prepared that will give more justice to the introduction to the UN food system than I can possibly do. So let's play this video, please. Thank you.
Political conflict, climate change, global economic uncertainty. Nearly 1 billion people are affected by hunger. At the same time, 3.1 billion people are unable to afford healthy diet and food safety.
The last 2 years have already seen a doubling of the number of people who are severely food insecure.
At the same
We face a real risk
3.1 billion people
of
are unable to
multiple
afford
famine.
healthy diet and food safety.
The last 2 years have already seen a doubling of the number of people who are severely food insecure. We face a real risk of multiple famines this year. And next year could be even worse. But we can avoid this catastrophe if we act now.
Over the past year, the United Nations has continuously urged
Country host from Vietnam, I would like to introduce and call on His Excellency Chang Lu Quang, the Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam, to give us a very warm welcome to his wonderful country.
Thưa ngài Riston,
His Excellency Mr. Christian Hopper, Director General Federal Office for Agriculture, Switzerland, the co-founder of the United Nations Sustainable Food System Program, ministers, and international guests, distinguished delegates. On behalf of the government of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, I would like to welcome the ministers, international guests, and delegates attending the 4th Global Conference of the One Planet Network Sustainable Food System Program, which is hosted by Vietnam. We applaud and appreciate the selection of the theme for this global conference, the transformation we need, emerging from global crisis by shaping sustainable, resilient, healthy, and inclusive food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, according to FAO reports 2020 and 2021, famine was still on the rise with 828 million people affected in 2021. The Asia-Pacific region is anticipated to realize the Sustainable Development Goals by 2065, or 3.5 decades later than scheduled. The problem is now more urgent than ever before, not any other time. It's now the time for us to take action in order to protect our planet, the common house for ourselves and the next generation. In this context, the Prime Minister issued on 28th of March 2023 the National Action Plan for Transformation to Transparent, Accountable, and Sustainable Food System in Vietnam to 2030, which aims to develop Vietnam as a transparent, responsible, sustainable producer and supplier of food. As confirmed by Vietnam at the United Nations Food System Summit in 2021. Vietnam sincerely thanks the United Nations Agency, especially Sustainable Food System Program, the international community, donors, research institutions, non-governmental organizations, and business sector for the valuable support over the past years, and look forward to your continued support and assistance in the time to come. Vietnam also confirms that we are willing to share our experiences and cooperate with other countries in agriculture and rural development, especially through the South-South Cooperation Program and Tripartite Cooperation in Agriculture. With your responsible participation, I hope that the conference will introduce the most effective solution to realize our defined targets. On behalf of the government of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, I am so delighted to announce the opening of the 4th Global Conference on the One Planet Network's Sustainable Food System Program. I wish you a successful conference. I wish the Minister of the Switzerland and distinguished delegate good health and happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for such a great overview and a very good speech in letting us know as well. Brief overview of the mixed policies and initiatives of the government of Vietnam deployed over the years, in terms also of recent policy developments, including this Food System Summit with a focus on the new Vietnam Action Plan for Food Transformation. So thank you so much for this very welcoming speech. And I hope that His Excellency's speech has also inspired everyone to also enjoy the capital, the pleasures of Hanoi. Whenever we are talking about Food System Summit, we know that there are so many interlinked factors and interlinked actors and multi-stakeholders. But at the heart of the discussion, I think, should really be starting from the farmer's point of view. And so we are here now to start also this very important event with the point of view of the farmers. And we are very much lucky to have been joined by our good friend, Ms. Estrella Esther Penuña, the Secretary General of the Asian Farmers Association for Sustainable Rural Development, to give us an anchor into the whole food system framework that has very many interlinked factors. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Ms. Esther Penuña.
Thank you, Dada. I'm very pleased to meet you again. And I'm very pleased to know that you are moderating the opening session of this very important global conference. It is a great honor and a big responsibility to be delivering a keynote speech during the opening session of this global conference. And we thank all these co-organizers for this opportunity to be with you and share our perspective on its theme. Thank you, His Excellency Tran Lu Quang, for welcoming all the speakers, delegations, and participants, both in person and in online, to your beautiful and hospitable country. Our work in AFA has brought us to your country many times since 2002, especially because we have our largest member organization here, the Vietnam Farmers Union, who have hosted 2 of our general assemblies, as well as several study tours, sharing and learning exchanges amongst farmer organizations in ASEAN and the whole Asia continent as well. And every time we go here, we notice something new, something innovative, something to learn from, something to be inspired about. And today, it is the same with the new Vietnam Action Plan for Food Transformation, and we wish you all the best in its implementation. In behalf of the co-organizers also, we would like to welcome Her Excellencies, Ministers and Secretaries of Food and Agriculture and Forestry in Costa Rica, Switzerland, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Cambodia, Malawi, Ghana, CELAC, representing Latin America and the Caribbean, and the FAO Director General to this global conference. We also would like to welcome all participants, both in person and online. We welcome this great opportunity to being together in person, because during the food system processes from 2020, our organization has met many new colleagues from all sectors: government representatives, NGOs, big and small, farmers, fishers, pastoralists, women and youth, family farming organizations, research and academic institutions, even media, but all virtually. Today, we look forward to meeting each other in person and exchange more ideas in more informal ways, such as during coffee and lunch breaks. Slide 2, please. I can, sorry, technical. A moment. Okay. Oh, I'm now ending my speech. Sorry. Okay. In 2019, the global community had unprecedented interest in discussing about food systems, because decades after agreeing on the right to food, we are nowhere near our SDG goal of ending hunger, nowhere near our target of promoting biodiversity, nowhere near our target threshold of not going beyond 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius increase in global temperature. Climate change has affected family farmers the most since the 2000s. Massive climate-related disasters in the Asia-Pacific region, most recent of which are massive flooding in Cambodia, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Thailand, heat waves and droughts in Cambodia, India, and China, super typhoons in Fiji, India, Philippines, and Vietnam have depleted fish stocks, decreased yields and incomes, destroyed billions of dollars of agriculture crops and livelihoods, and even caused deaths among family farmers. And the COVID-19 pandemic has merely exacerbated the effects of climate change on family farmers. The mobility restrictions which governments imposed to arrest the spread of the virus have made inaccessible or closed traditional and export markets, even as prices of basic foodstuffs increase. Research has revealed that COVID-19 has widened poverty and income gap across the region. And then the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which broke out in early 2022, has caused fuel prices to soar, doubling or tripling prices of electricity, gas, water, food, and agriculture inputs, thus worsening the sorry and battered state of family farmers. This crisis climate change, COVID-19 pandemic, the conflict happening simultaneously over the past 2 years has worsened inflation in our countries, increased agrarian conflicts, land grabbing, eviction, criminalization, especially among rights defenders, severely impacting our rights to work and to food. As a case in point, in our farming neighborhood, the COVID-19 pandemic brought a rush of interest in getting rights of ownership of land, enticing poor farmers to sell their lands and therefore become landless, and increasing disputes over boundaries of sold rights to land. What kind of transformation do we need then for food systems? During the food system discussion, we observed emerging consensus in the global community that we would like to transform food systems such that it provides health and nutrition, it is inclusive to all stakeholders, especially to the poor and marginalized peoples from rural communities. It is, including its transition, equitable and just, leaving no one behind, ensuring that risks and benefits are shared by all. While progress has been made through the many small and big efforts of this global community, still we face a lot of obstacles in the work of transforming to inclusive, healthy, sustainable food systems. At both national and global levels, many actors have inadequate coordination and design of and implementation of programs. In some, lack of policy coherence between agriculture, fisheries, forestry, health and nutrition, environment. Indigenous peoples and local communities, as well as family farming organizations, bewail inadequate representation in consultation and policy-making bodies, thus feeling that the policies and programs do not work for us or are not within our reach. Consultations with our members say that they have insignificant access to key resources, whether it be lands, markets, finance, technologies, even seeds. Also, in some, designs and plans look good on paper, but are not implemented or are implemented weakly at best. There is also inadequate financing support for programs that may have strategic positive impacts. Small-scale producers are critical for global food security, producing as much as 80% of the food consumed in regions such as Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Yet, they accounted for only 1.7% of climate financing flows in 2018, just $10 billion compared to the estimated $240 billion a year needed to help family farmers adapt to climate change. In the Philippines, we have a saying or a proverb, ang sakit ng kalingkingan ay sakit ng buong katawan. Or, the pain in the little finger is the pain in the whole body. And thus, remedy must be holistic in approach. Food systems and agriculture is not just about food, but also about other public goods like natural resource management, climate change, trade regimes, competition for foreign direct investments, international research and innovation, public health, and food safety and stability. Achieving SDG 2, ending hunger, must go hand in hand with achieving other SDGs and therefore requires new thinking about the governance of agriculture and food systems. Some progress have been made in implementing a food systems approach with experiences sprinkled across the globe. And this is what we hope to come to know during this conference. However, there is still a lot of work to do, a lot of lessons to share, a lot of scaling up to do. This global conference will be a very opportune time to share these efforts, the challenges we are facing, and how we are trying to overcome them, and in so doing, learn from each other. The call for being holistic greatly involves also the issue of governance of food systems. Whether it be at the local or national or regional or global levels, we as farmers organizations call for an inclusive governance process, one that treats family farmers and their organizations and cooperatives as equal partners, as solution providers, not just victims, not just problems, not just beneficiaries. Because family farmers organizations and cooperatives, we consolidate the voice and the wealth of our members. We are game changers. We can upscale many game-changing solutions developed by family farmers. We can accelerate the achievement of the SDG, especially through improved economic services to our members and strong advocacy. And we are propellers of climate resilient agriculture, facilitating the transfer and upscaling of agroecological farming. We are showing this through our partnerships with IFAD and FAO, and IFAD on the FFO Farmers Empowerment and COVID-19 Resiliency, with FAO and the CFS on articulating our consolidated policy recommendations, in GAPSP for helping improve its ways of working so that it reaches out to what we call the missing middle. We have a great tool to tackle the challenging endeavor of food system transformation. Adopting a food systems approach, which takes into account all the traditionally siloed sectors, activities, elements, and actors within food systems in order to produce positive outcomes across all sustainability dimensions. The time to act is now. An icon of young people, Greta Thunberg, I know you know her, has said it so aptly: act as the house is on fire. Let us prioritize the work of food system transformation before it is too late, or the hunger and malnutrition, climate and biodiversity crisis cause irreparable harm. Let us aggregate amongst common passions, common advocacies, partnering in meaningful research, innovation, and on-ground activities. We are happy to note that representatives of coalitions who have been formed as an offshoot of the Food System Summit processes are here. Let us complement, synergize. AFA is an active member of the Agroecology Coalition, and we have in our meetings so the need to partner with other coalitions, for example, the School Meal Coalition or the Coalition of Action for Soil Health. I'm happy to share with you that at the same time that we are having this conference in Southeast Asia, the Southeast Asia Research Center on Agriculture and AFA are doing a regional policy forum on farm to schools. And since I'm here, we are eager to learn more also from the School Meal Coalition and are interested to explore opportunities. So from the organizers, we invite all conference speakers and participants to have a fruitful conference, listening, but also challenging each other and not avoiding the difficult conversations, but rather embracing the controversies as a necessary method to address the issues, the power imbalances, and challenges at the core of our unsustainable food systems. Let us share. Let us listen. Let us reflect what can be scaled up and scaled out and why. Let us develop ideas, and let us have these ideas as starting points for getting partners, acting now for the transformation we need: sustainable, healthy, nutritious, resilient, just, and equitable food systems. Let us all have a fruitful global conference. Enjoy your po and your stay in Vietnam. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Esther, for a very inspiring speech that gave us not just an overview of the challenges that we are facing, but most importantly, how you think or how AFA thinks of how we can move forward in a collaborative, cooperative fashion. I would like to also take this chance to say that as women, we both lead some sort of initiatives in the region, and how, together with Marlene behind you from Asia DRA, how these women-led initiatives are really addressing the main challenge that we are seeing, which is really fragmented initiatives or fragmented implementation coordination. So thank you so much for that, Esther. And so next on the program, we are aware that we are joined by a lot of high-level authorities in the room. And so we have prepared a panel discussion with our high-level representatives, starting with 2 videos for those organizations who are not with us today. So there's going to be a video from Mr. Chu Dongyu, Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, which we have said has helped found the System Summit, and His Excellency Victor Carvajal Porras, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock from Costa Rica. So please, let's listen to their video recorded messages.
I'm pleased to address this important meeting. I wish to thank the government of Vietnam for hosting this key event, and His Excellency the Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development for inviting me to participate. I'm also particularly pleased that the UN Food Summit Follow-up Coordination Hub, hosted by FAO on behalf of the UN system, are one of the organizers. FAO is committed to the objectives of the One Planet Network's Sustainable Food System Program, an example of the multi-stakeholder partnership that can leverage strong, efficient, effective, and coherent support. It enables inclusive governance and coordination to accelerate the transformation towards more efficient and sustainable consumption and production patterns in agri-food systems. It promotes a holistic agri-food system approach to policy making, and fosters exchange of the best practices, lessons learned, knowledge sharing, and access to the tools that the guidance materials. FAO is honored to be part of its multi-stakeholder advisory committee. We know that these partnerships will be vital to address the interlinked and complex global challenges, including the impact of the climate crisis, ongoing conflicts, food insecurities, malnutrition, and food loss and waste, which requires the urgent transformation of our agri-food system to be more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable. FAO is committed to continue working together with all the partners to achieve our common goal of the 4 betters: better production, better nutrition, a better environment, a better life for all, leaving no one behind. This conference is a key opportunity to discuss the main barriers and the bottlenecks in our agri-food systems, and what needs to change for the effective implementation of the national transformative pathways, to build a set of the actionable recommendations, and for the mobilizing broad range support, especially on governance, finances, and accountability frameworks. Your discussions of the next few days will be a milestone in preparation of the 2023 UN Food System Stock-Taking Moment, hosted by FAO and the government of Italy in Rome from 24 to 26 July this year. An important moment for countries to take stock of where they are along their pathways, and to share, exchange, and promote early signs of the transformations in their agri-food sectors. We cannot continue doing things as we have always done them if we want to achieve the transformation we need. I wish you fruitful discussion leading to the concrete and innovative actions going forward. I thank you.
Director General de la Oficina Federal de Agricultura de Suiza, señor Joao Campari, líder global de alimentos, señor Li Minh, ministro de Agricultura y Desarrollo Rural de Vietnam. Estimada señora Estrella Penunia, secretaria general de la Asociación Federal de Agricultores de Suiza, Asiáticos. Señor estimados participantes, líder global de alimentos, señor Li Minh, ministro de Agricultura y Desarrollo Rural de Vietnam. Estimada señora Estrella Penunia, secretaria general de la Asociación de Agricultores Asiáticos. Estimados participantes, señoras y señores, en nombre del Gobierno de Costa Rica, me complace expresarles un cordial saludo y cordial bienvenida a la cuarta conferencia global de programas de sistemas alimentarios sostenibles de la red One Planet. En el marco de la participación de Costa Rica como país promotor y colíder del programa de sistemas alimentarios sostenibles, junto con la Oficina Federal de Agricultura de Suiza y el Fondo Mundial para la Naturaleza, es un honor compartir con ustedes este espacio. Como comunidad global, nos encontramos frente a un gran desafío, agravado por los hechos de significativa repercusión en la salud de los ecosistemas, la salud de las personas, las economías de los países. Lograr sostenibilidad de los sistemas alimentarios es un gran reto y una urgente necesidad que demanda acciones prontas de todos los actores, desde la gestión de organismos internacionales, gobiernos nacionales, locales, sector privado, academia, sector financiero, las comunidades, la familia, la ciencia y el suministro de insumos, la producción de la industria, la distribución, el consumo y las políticas públicas. Se requieren acciones para acelerar el avance hacia los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. En particular, es urgente realizar cambios transformacionales para la sostenibilidad de la producción, para promover seguridad alimentaria, la nutrición y luchar contra la pérdida de biodiversidad y el cambio climático. Cambios que en los próximos 8 años nos permitan celebrar el logro de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, particularmente los relacionados a reducción de pobreza, acabar con el hambre, la seguridad alimentaria y la mejora en la nutrición. En esta cuarta conferencia global del programa de sistemas alimentarios sostenibles se estarán analizando las principales barreras y desafíos que nos estamos enfrentando en un periodo post-pandemia donde se revirtió mucho de lo avanzado en el marco de la Agenda 2030 y el tiempo se acorta. Debemos trabajar mediante alianzas público-privadas para abordar esta crisis y acercarnos a tener sistemas alimentarios sostenibles y resilientes para el 2030. En el marco de la Cumbre de Sistemas Alimentarios 2021, convocada por el Secretario General de Naciones Unidas, Antonio Gutiérrez, el país convocó a 6 diálogos nacionales, donde se recogieron insumos y generaron acciones prioritarias con una visión común de más de 500 personas participantes provenientes de diferentes sectores: agropecuario, pesquero, agroindustria, consumidor, sector privado, academia y organizaciones no gubernamentales y por supuesto el gobierno. Se trabajaron temáticas de agroecología, agricultura familiar, nutrición, naturaleza, biodiversidad. Desde ese momento a la fecha, estas han sido algunas de nuestras acciones para trabajar hacia sistemas alimentarios más sostenibles, resilientes, saludables e inclusivos en el contexto de múltiples crisis globales que enfrenta la humanidad y nuestro país actualmente. Colocación de incentivos económicos, reconocimientos ambientales por buenas prácticas, producción agricultura orgánica, sistemas forestales mixtos, sistemas de recursos no reembolsables para personas productoras, análisis de propuestas económicas para iniciar el escalamiento de acciones de mitigación nacionalmente apropiada, lo que son NAMA en ganadería, café, musáceas. El diseño de nuevas NAMAs también ha sido parte de este avance, y la reestructuración del Ministerio para poder atender mejor a los productores y acercarnos a ellos, aprovechando los recursos que hoy tenemos. Y una hoja de ruta para trabajar en sistemas alimentarios sostenibles, resilientes para el país, donde podemos trabajar de programas como el Campo a la Mesa, para generar también una una disminución en la cadena de comercialización de los productos que permita a los productores obtener un mejor precio y de esa manera ayudar también en esta parte de la comercialización. El fomento de buenas prácticas por medio de economía circular es una de las labores también que hemos estado trabajando. El trabajo en la comercialización y en el valor agregado de los productores es importante. Y fortaleciendo principalmente la transferencia tecnológica hacia los productores y la capacitación que hemos impulsado desde una política pública de este gobierno para mejorar la accesibilidad de los productos de mejor calidad a los consumidores de este país y a todas las personas participantes. Les deseo que en esta cuarta conferencia de sistemas agroalimentarios sostenibles sea un rico espacio para el intercambio multidisciplinario y construcción de propuestas y recomendaciones para la puesta en marcha de soluciones concretas que contribuyan a superar las problemáticas que hoy enfrentamos y que realmente requieren un esfuerzo sustancial, como es el tema de la inflación, que hoy muchísimas economías la estamos sufriendo. A todos, muchísimas gracias por la participación y les deseo lo mejor en esta cumbre.
So we are setting up the chairs for our high-level panel discussion. I also wanted to say that we are going to upload the message from His Excellency Victor Carvajal in our website with English subtitles. There are actually some English subtitle in his message. How is everyone? Still good? Yeah. All right. So as you can see, everything happens very quickly and swiftly in Vietnam. I had my eyeglasses yesterday and it was done in 20 minutes. So we are moving on to our high-level panel discussion. Can we have the slide for this, please? And this session will move into this high-level ministerial panel, which is formed by high-level representatives of several governments from all regions around the globe that responded to the convening of the fourth global conference, with generous interest in participating in the discussions and contributing to the conference outcomes. We will be asking them relevant questions that will set the tone for the next 4 days. So in this order, if I call your name, Your Excellencies, please kindly come up to the stage and take a place in the seats. So let's start with His Excellency Le Minh Nguyen, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Vietnam, from our host. Please, sir, come up and take the seat. I would also like to call on His Excellency Christian Hofer from the State Secretary for Agriculture in Switzerland. Thank you. I would like to call next His Excellency Meles Mekonnen from the State Minister for Agriculture of Ethiopia. Thank you, sir. His Excellency Ildefonso Musafiri, Minister of State from the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources from Rwanda. Next, we have His Excellency Sanvanti, Secretary of State of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, Cambodia. Hello, sir. His Excellency Samuel Kawale, Minister of Agriculture from Malawi. Your Excellency. Okay, I think Esther is starting clapping after every Excellency. That gives us a more informal atmosphere. And next, we call on Okay. Next, we call on His Excellency Sabato Cesar from the Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry, and Labor of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. He's also the chair of the 33 Ministers of Agriculture of CELAC, representing Latin America in the Caribbean. Okay. There is actually an empty chair from Ghana, and I think I will try to sit there as the only woman to balance the manual. And so we are joined by very influential authorities that really have a great role in the transformation and accelerating action on the ground. And we wanted to ask the first question to the first three. There's a first question, which is, has the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit put in motion, or has it been effective, a transformation process in your country? Because I think everyone wanted to hear that. And if yes, what are the key elements and measures that have been taken? And so we asked this question to His Excellency Lehman One, from His Excellency Christian Hofer, and His Excellency Meles Mekonnen for these first three questions. Dr. Wan, you can take the first question.
Xin cảm ơn bà điều phối chương trình đã ưu tiên cho
much, Madam Chair, for giving the opportunity to the host. And I would like to share with you that in our country, we have achieved great achievements in poverty reduction that has been highly evaluated by the UN and other organizations with a very developed model with the very impressive poverty reduction index. And regarding the food safety security, that has also contributed to our poverty reduction index. And Vietnam has considered as the has considered agriculture as a key pillar given the uncertainties in terms of the global supply chain disruption. But we would like to share with you that we have very small size agriculture production, given that the farmers are most vulnerable to the uncertainties and the fluctuations in the world, as well as the limited access to the latest world trend. Especially the Vietnam agriculture is facing three challenges: climate change, the market change, and the change in terms of the consumption behavior. And besides, because for many years to ensure the food security and the export to other countries, especially with the rise, the cultivation, the resource intensive cultivation has become a challenge, and we need to also compromise it for biodiversity and environmental protection and others, while we have the stricter requirements in terms of the trace of origin, as well as the safety of environment protection. So we think that these are our challenges. And the government Vietnam has committed at the COP26 that by 2050, we will achieve net zero. And we have conducted and joined many initiatives on methane emission reduction and joined the Glasgow statement on risk. And currently, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, in all our strategies, we aim at this commitment in the livestock and fisheries, as well as forestry and husbandry. And we have very strong commitment to participate in the smart and resilient food system under the severe impacts of the climate change and other challenges I mentioned above, and the pandemic, the global pandemic, how to utilize our resources in a more sustainable way in order to improve the livelihood diversity for the farmers under the above mentioned challenges. Therefore, we believe that the transformation of the food system is very important to achieve all the sustainable development goals. And the PM has issued the national program on the transparent, sustainable and responsible food system transformation by 2030 towards the transparency, responsibility, and the sustainability to ensure the national food security, to improve the quality of the people's living, and to contribute to the sustainable development goals of Vietnam and other commitments with the world. Therefore, we have transformed our food system, and we consider as the intersectoral task with the participation of the whole system from the central to the local government and the whole political system and all the players, actors, partners from the private and public sector and the farmers as well. And our transformation is attached with the eco-agriculture with the diverse value and improvement of the competitiveness and the resilience against the large shock and towards the building of the agricultural brands of Vietnam and high income for the producer and assurance of the food safety for the consumer and the access to the food for all the groups, including the vulnerable and the poor people, the people with disadvantages. And we enhance innovation and digital transformation in production and distribution and enhance the linkage between the producer and the consumer to reduce the food loss. And finally, we also integrate the resources through the mechanisms and policies to leverage and mobilize all the resources in the society, including the international fundings. And we have identified several tasks as follows. First, to revise and improve the procedures, mechanism, process for the production towards the transparency, responsibility, and sustainability. And second, we want to MF the development of the distribution and processing system in the consumption system. And finally, we want to talk about the role of agriculture in terms of the food staff, which has been more and more important given the current context. And we are now restructuring our agriculture and towards the sustainable rural and agriculture development, which is the farmer-centric. And we want to adapt to the trends in terms of climate change, trade liberalization, and the control of the food loss. And with the support of FAO, UNIDO, UNDP, and other international organizations and donors, our agriculture has proposed to the PM to establish the food innovative center in order to aim at the low emission and high quality rice in the Mekong Delta. And we want to reduce the emission in the northern coastal area of Vietnam. And we are calculating the carbon emission footprint for coffee, aqua products, and other products. And we need the support of international donors, organizations, research institutes, the enterprises, as well as the private sector and the people to contribute to the transformation of the food system towards the international trend and standards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Juan. It seems there's a lot of movement. No? So we're running out of time. We encourage our participants to speak within 4 minutes. And so, Dr. Santi.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bakuda, dear Minister Juan, dear Excellencies, dear colleagues, distinguished guests. First of all, I would like to express how pleased I am that the opening day of this conference has finally come. and that I can be here with you here in Hanoi. As a co-organizer of that conference, I would like to thank you very much to organize and to make this effort that Vietnam has put into making this important meeting here to reality. So let me come back to the question. Switzerland was already an active advocate for food systems transformation prior to 2021 UN Food Systems Summit, in particular through its role of the One Planet Network's Sustainable Food Systems Program, which we have been co-leading since 2015. Switzerland's active role of supporting the Food Systems Summit and its preparatory process by providing financial support to the Secretariat, organizing a first food systems dialogue with the then newly appointed special envoy for the summit at WEF annual meeting in 2020, followed by a series of national and subnational food system dialogues and conducting the first official global food systems dialogue as part of the SFS program's third global conference. However, the 2021 Food Systems Summit has certainly served as an accelerator globally, but also at national level in Switzerland. Our food systems dialogues helped us to enrich the national pathway document that we developed in view of the Food Systems Summit and to validate it through a participatory discussion process in 3 of our linguistical areas in Switzerland. The Swiss pathway is firmly based on the Sustainable Development Strategy that the executive branch of our federal government released just a few months prior to the Food Systems Summit. This strategy contains a dedicated chapter on food systems transformation, consisting of 4 measurable targets ranging from production to consumption, and an action plan with measures aimed to achieve those targets by 2030. 4 targets are: 1, increasing the proportion of the Swiss population that nourishes themselves in a healthy and balanced manner in line with our national recommendations to 1/3. 2, half of avoidable food losses. 3, decrease the carbon footprint from food consumption by 1/4 compared to 2020. And 4, increase the proportion of farms engaged in especially environment and animal-friendly production by 1/3. One of these measures of our national pathway's current action plan notably recognized the need to continue the dialogues. We did so over the course of the last year by conducting a Citizens' Council for Food Systems Policy. This process brought together a random sample of people, representatives of Swiss population, in terms of criteria such as age, gender, religion, education, language, and so on, to co-create a series of recommendations for policymakers. These recommendations were handed over to our government on the occasion of a national level food systems summit earlier this year. And we have now started an internal process to evaluate these recommendations by a scientific panel and map them against existing measures and processes to identify scope for policy uptake. Furthermore, last year, we have released a report on the future orientation of Switzerland's agriculture policy beyond 2030. The report adopts a holistic food systems approach in that it proposes measures along the entire value chain and beyond such as anticipate climate change impacts, reduce nutrition losses and risks from planet protection products, strive for a fair distribution of added value, and simplify the choice of sustainable products. The momentum created by the 2021 Food Systems Summit has certainly also added further motion to our national level processes. It is now all the more important to maintain and increase that momentum. And I'm confident that with our government-backed national pathway document, on the one hand, combined continuing processes to ensure inclusive and participatory dialogue, we have a good basis to do that. So thank you, and I wish you all a very successful conference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hofer. Now let's proceed with Mr. Mekanen from Ethiopia.
Thank you very much. His Excellency, Mr. Lee Min-hon, Minister for Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development of Vietnam. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join you at the 4th Global Conference of the One Planet Network Sustainable Food System Program. And I wish to thank the government of Vietnam for the invitation and the hospitality extended to us, and also to AGRA and other partners for facilitating this opportunity for us. My reflections are on the effect and the outcome of the 2021 Food System Summit and the impact that has on transformation of Ethiopia's food systems. As you all know, Ethiopia's global hunger index score has decreased dramatically from 54 to 25 in slightly more than 2 decades. The progress against hunger has now stagnated in the recent years. The fight against food insecurity and the malnutrition or hunger has been challenged by conflict, both internal and external conflicts, like the war between Ukraine and Russia, desert locust invasion, climatic shocks such as floods and drought, COVID-19 impacts are the most challenging issues for Ethiopia. In response to the hazards threatening our significant progress in the fight against food insecurity and malnutrition, the government of Ethiopia launched the Ethiopian Food System process in November 2020 with the objective of defining Ethiopia's vision and pathway for the national food system transformation. The Ethiopian food system was developed around the 5 United Nations Food System Summit action tracks to identify the major challenges and indicate the solution based on the local context. As the UN Secretary General indicated during the United Nations Food System Summit, no one size fits all. While local contexts, approaches, and perspectives may differ, food system can and must adapt in order to realize the SDG. The 22 proposed Ethiopian food system game-changing solutions categorized in 6 clusters for a holistic transformation of Ethiopia's food systems from production to consumption that addresses the associated livelihoods and environmental risk relevant to the country's context. The holistic transformation of Ethiopian food systems is no longer optional, nor can be delayed. It is a super urgent priority whose action is long belated. Thus, Ethiopia is demonstrating its commitment to transforming the food systems by taking bold actions. The Ethiopian Food System Transformation Agenda is a national flagship of action, and it is an all-embracing framework that is designed to help accelerate the implementation of game-changing solutions in a harmonized manner with the National Development Plan and sectoral priorities in a holistic and synergetic manner to achieving the SDG goals. The Secretary General will organize a global stock-taking meeting every 2 years review progresses in implementing the outcome of this process and its contribution to achieving of the 2030 agenda. This year's stock-taking moment is in July, and in alignment with the initiative, the Ethiopian Food System Convener, Ministry of Agriculture, has reviewed the intervention done after the United Nations Food System Summit conducted in November 2021. Here below are some of the achievements in Ethiopia. Ethiopian Food System Transformation Roadmap developed and refined by the participation of different actors and stakeholders. The Ethiopian food system game changers are harmonized with the country's 10-year perspective plan or strategic pillars. The third, the Ethiopian food system game-changing solutions are fully aligned with 8 agricultural sector focus areas. The 10 flagship programs in 10 years, that is a 10 in 10 flagship programs in the country, as an initiative launched to avail diversified production. Ethiopian food-based dietary guideline, one of the game-changing solution, endorsed and launched in the country. Homegrown school feeding program launched in the capital of the city, Addis Ababa, and other regional states. Many game-changing solutions, such as the production of diversified foods, food safety management and control, green legacy initiatives, food fortification, land and water use management, and others are progressing well. Financial assistance delivered from the government treasury and development partner to support interventions indicated in the Ethiopian food system roadmap. Finally, the Interministerial Steering Committee on Ethiopian food systems and nutrition is established to strengthen the food system and nutrition governance. Our experience from all these interventions has clearly shown no one ministry in the country or no one sector can do this alone. Agriculture must work with water and environment, health and financial sectors. And we also need to keep our policies robust and responsive to systems-led interventions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing. So for this panel, we heard the Vietnamese experience, Swiss pathways, and the Ethiopian game-changing solutions. I'm particularly struck by the challenges identified by His Excellency Dr. Juan from Vietnam, which talked about climate change, consumption change, and market change. And now we move on to question 2, which further talk about challenges and what is the greatest challenge that needs to be overcome to achieve this transformation. And I'm very curious to see whether our next 2 speakers will mirror that of the changes identified by Vietnam. So Your Excellency, Dr. Mosafiri and Dr. Van Santi, please take the floor.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all postcode observed, thank you very much. First of all, for having us here in Vietnam, the beautiful city of Hanoi, for this important conference. I'm from Rwanda. I'm representing Rwanda, and as my colleagues who have started, we also take food systems seriously. We have already defined our pathways toward the sustainable food systems in the agriculture sector. And we are even up to our planning horizon next 5 years, where we are putting most emphasis on the outcome of a 2021 Food System Summit, where we are ready to integrate most of the ideas in our 5-year planning for agricultural transformation. Coming to your question, moderator, on the challenges, since we are all in emotion towards the food system, we in Rwanda, what we perceive as a main challenge is about the coordination. So we perceive that these issues of food systems shouldn't be looked at a work of one ministry. So with a single Minister of Agriculture cannot implement solely the food systems transformation. If we need the transformation that we need as the theme of the conference that I've seen today, we need to get the coordination right. For example, if I'm talking about better nutrition, better production, better environment, for example, of course, the Minister of Agriculture will be putting in place all mechanisms to increase productivity. But when it comes to nutrition, we need the Minister of Health. So then they need to create synergies between ministries, between agencies within our respective countries. So if we need a better environment, so we need the ministry that has the environment in its attribution. And that's where we have to be together. If you talk about school feeding, for example, we need the Ministry of Education on board so that we may think together and go together in this journey towards the food system transformation. One experience of what we have started in Rwanda that I can share with the participant here, we have established a regular forum where we meet. We put together these aligned ministries, we put together the civil society, we put together the private sector, we put together the development partners who are working in Rwanda in one forum where we meet regularly. It is called Agriculture Working Group, Agriculture Sector Working Group. There, we discuss all the matters related to food system transformation, and that's where we can talk about inputs, talk about market linkages, we talk about extension services, we can talk together, discuss the environmental sustainability, and most of it, importantly, about how can we de-risk, because we cannot achieve the sustainable food systems if you don't de-risk agriculture, first of all. That we talk about insurance, talk about finance, which are the major hindrance to climate change. Of course, climate change is requiring insurance because the climate change is real and is global. So we need everybody on board to make sure that we deliberate on each component, on each barrier. That's we're going to threaten the food system to achieve the transformation. I also want to echo to loud and to comment on what the president of Asian Farm Association said. Of course, she also called upon the coordination. The coordination, not only the top down, but also asking us to come on the ground, also to include the marginalized, the poor, or the farmers who are there, who understand the reality. So that's the only way we can achieve the transformation we need. We need to coordinate. So I call upon participants in this meeting, and if you want to make the food system right, we need to resolve, first of all, the coordination issue, which is, I think, if we get it right, we make the others right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a powerful message. I work for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and coordination, I think, is an overwhelming issue that's really more than even climate change being faced today. All right, so Mr. Van Santi, can we hear from you on the challenges?
Hello. Yes. Let me start by thanking to all that joined together to make this very important event happen today. And I can say that the event it happened in time and on time in the context that we don't know what's going to change from day to day for our food system. I might go very straight to the point, and we look at the title of our conference today. It's transformation we need. We can answer very simple what we need, that we need the food for all the people. And we have to secure to fix the broken, or we can say the disruptive of our food system at the moment. So we have to look at the two very important chain of one is a production chain, second is supply chain. We have to secure and make it sustain for the future. Talking about this food system, I hope everyone know the effect from pandemic to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, from the climate change to the geopolitics. It's very strong effect to the food system. I just picked the 3 points that affected. Actually, there's many, but since the time is limited, and I go through the agenda of the organizing committee, I see a very good agenda that might answer to what we need in the future. So the first point, look at during this time, the transportation is very strong effect in terms of regional food system. I don't mean the local food system. Yeah. The second, look at the energy. It's very, very affected by this word. So you see the input for the production, the price of the input fertilizer increase from day to day. The seed for the production is also limited. The energy to process the food is also face the difficulty. So from these 3, I just picked the 3 main points. We can see what's going to look like our food system at the moment. So come to what is the solution, or what we can do in the future. I think first we have to look at to get synergy, policy, or strategy in our region. Starting by the experience that we face, we have to look. I see many policy, many strategy, framework, on production, technology. Now we are talking about the digitalization. But most of us forget about the research. I think we should start and push for the research activity from now on. We have to look for the seed that is a very good seed. I said the good seed is the seed that are resistant to the climate, to drought, to the flood, also to the disease. The climate getting hotter and hotter, we have to go to find the very good seed. So how much do we invest on the research at the moment? I think almost all the country, we pay less attention on the research. So if we have a good seed, we might get a good production. We might get the healthy food for our people, that to make the healthy people that can adapt or can develop or to implement the policy of digitalization in the future. We have, every country have a policy. We have a target to do we have ambitious to do the digitalization, more effective, more efficiency. But the capacity of our young generation, we have to start to build from the good food, the healthy food. Second point, it's very important also. We're talking about the production, we're talking about processing, distribution to the market, the whole chain of the supply chain. But the key point is the investment, the budget, the money. Yeah. We can access to the money, but the problem is the interest rate. We have to get the private sector to involve with us. We cannot do from the public side for the whole chain. The private sector is very important to drive the supply chain. But we need the money, the investment with the low interest. So I hope the donor or the banker can reconsider on this point. The world is changing. If we keep, everyone say that agriculture sector is very risky sector. No one wants to invest in agriculture. Pay less attention in investing there. So we have to change the mind in the future that agriculture not at risk anymore. Agriculture will be the sector of resilience, sector of sustainability. The experience we learned from the COVID, every sector gets stuck, but agriculture still feed the people in the world. So we change the mind, then the private sector join with us. The other point, we have to start to bring the health sector to involve in agriculture. Without health sector, we can not get the good food to our young generation to build the good brain for them. We also need to revise the consumption per capita. I think everyone knows you change a lot the consumption for the food, particularly for the lady. They would like to get slim. They eat less. They select the food, better health, but not fat. So I think with all these things, we need the very commitment with all players, all stakeholders, and build the trust among them. This is the point that I would try to emphasize. And I hope the next few days, they might bring to note this and discuss within the group, and we will come up with a good result of our conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. While the question was really asking about challenges, it was a very positive discussion because you already provided solutions to the challenges that we are facing. And I think the rest of the audience can agree that we are all facing rising prices, energy shortages. And so thank you for reminding us of possible solutions in order to overcome this. And so moving on to actually question number 3, we wanted to hear actual success stories at the country level of particular initiatives or success stories in terms of food system transformation. And for this, we have our last but not the least speakers, His Excellency Kawale and His Excellency Sabato Sosar. Sorry, sir. All right, take it away, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to thank the government of Vietnam for hosting us, as well as for facilitating the country of Malawi to come, AGRA. As a country of Malawi, since 2021, we've been very proactive. Let me put it that way. We didn't just attend the 2021 summit and then go and do other things, but we had to make sure that we implement what we committed to do. So first of all, as a country, we led an all-inclusive national dialogue. We had dialogues at the national level, then we took it at the regional level, and then all the way to the district where people, the farmers, the vulnerable are living, to make sure that we do a very good stock taking of some of the issues that we needed to address. So since 2021 up to now, we've had 16 different dialogues to make sure that everyone has got their voices heard. Now, the 16 are just done by the Minister of Agriculture, but we've had other dialogues that have been done by other stakeholders. This is just to show how serious we are to make sure that we are moving in the direction and also fulfilling the commitments that we had. Not only did we have those dialogues, but we also made sure that that discussion is now fitting into the national vision of 2063. which has been split into 10-year plans. So everything that came out of those national dialogues will fit into the Vision 2063 of the nation. Now, I must say that after doing those dialogues, we came up with 5 key areas that people said these need to be addressed. So first of all, it was issue of inadequate or access to healthy living and also diets, issues of nutrition. We needed to address that. Secondly, unhealthy and unsustainable consumption patterns, like food wastages and so on. Thirdly, we also looked at the degradation of the natural environment, and how can we make sure that climate change is looked into. Fourthly, we also looked at inadequate to deliver wealth creation. And lastly, limited resilience to systematic and multiple vulnerabilities to shocks and stresses. So these dialogues helped us to unearth these top 5 things that we felt are needed to be addressed as a country. So not only did we come up with those 5 things, we went a step further to come up with solutions. How can we address these things? So all those 5 things, the possible solutions were, first of all, how can we start harmonizing extension service work in the country? Because for us to address these issues, we need to have the right people on the ground to start addressing these issues, firstly. Secondly, we had to look at how can we invest in production, specifically mega farms, to increase production. So mega farms are the in thing at the talk of towns right now. We need to increase production. Thirdly, identification of market structures so that we can increase productivity and value addition, and most importantly, nutrition. We have put in place mechanisms for that. And fourthly, the vertical integration of aquaculture, as well as making sure that the element of nutrition, because nutrition is always important, and also the issue of soil fertility, because most of the times people neglect that. We talk a lot about production, but when it comes to making sure that we protect the soil, it's usually put on the back end. So we identified 5 things and provided solutions towards that, and that we consider that to be a milestone and success stories that we want to share with other countries. But we realized we couldn't do these things on our own. We needed partners. We've heard about collaborations from other speakers, and that is also what we have started doing. At the moment, we're working with World Bank and also the Global Agriculture and Food Security Programs, which we would want to see how we can consolidate the gains and also leverage some of the resources from other partners. Not only that, but we're also working and finalizing the Dakar Compact paper that we attended about 2 or 3 months ago to make sure that we have that collaboration with other stakeholders. But for us, we are grateful that since 2021 up to now, including this summit, we have gained a lot, and we are moving in the right direction, and we are making sure that the voice of the vulnerable people in the country are heard, and we're being proactive to address those things. And we look forward to the next couple of years to really see that we are serving the people of Malawi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kawale. It sounds impressive. Perhaps we can visit Malawi? Yeah, to see the success and implement it in our region. Thank you. Mr. Sabato, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to begin firstly by thanking the government and people of Vietnam for your warm hospitality extended. In a few minutes, we will all leave this room to have lunch. But there are millions of people around the world, when it is lunchtime, there are more questions than answers. I have traveled all the way from the Caribbean, island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I represent a great region, Latin America and the Caribbean. And I have come here to Vietnam to speak about the needs of the poor, the family farmers, and the many around the world who we represent on a day-to-day basis. They are not here in the room with us, but we hold their future in trust. And sometimes when I sit in these conferences, the speeches are going in one direction and the reality, sadly, in the opposite direction. I want to, in that vein, congratulate and thank all the participants for coming together to defend the cause for zeroing hunger and undernourishment globally. It begins, of course, with the political will that we all have. But one of the areas that we need to stress more is how do we, in each country, reduce this very important political will to a meaningful legislative framework. The factors of production are spoken about, but when we have our national budgets, sometimes we do not allocate enough funds to ensuring that we can realize the political will. In my region, Latin America and the Caribbean, we continue to work steadfastly in a resolute way to ensure that we reduce hunger and undernourishment. We also recognize, importantly, that without a critical effort to engage the youth, the young people, the next generation of farmers, the next generation of marketers, the next generation of value chain builders, without the youth, there is no future. And we have started programs primarily through the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation, AICA, to ensure that throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, we are working with the next generation of young people. We have moved to the establishment of parliamentary fronts against hunger, and this is where in the parliaments of many countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, we have a oneness on the issue of reducing hunger and undernourishment. There are many things that we can fight about. There are many sides that we can take, but it is very important that as governments, whichever side of the corridor you are on, that the fight against hunger needs the unity of all. And finally, in the context of coming from a small island developing state, the population of my country is 100,000 persons, and the size of my country is 150 square miles, and we compete on a global scale, and we have to ensure, as small island developing states, that we can carve out within the WTO system the required treatment for us to actively participate. I have great confidence, having come through the vagaries of the COVID-19 pandemic, the challenges of climate change, the high cost of inputs, that if we work together, not only on stages and through speeches, but through meaningful cooperation, that we will ensure that by 2050, that no one would go to bed hungry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cesar. What a powerful speech and a very relevant last intervention in this very high-level panel. I know that a lot of the sharings given to us by their excellencies struck a chord in all of us, and I would like to say that they will all be available in the next 4 days to discuss more of the insights that they have shared. And Mr. Cesar, you gave such a very powerful intervention, and we are also looking forward, which wrapped up both the challenges and your requested, suggested interventions on how this could be overcome. So with that, let's give a big round of applause for our excellencies, and we thank you very much. You may, again, all of us can go to our seats. Thank you so much again. I think in the future, we will also have more women in the panel, right? I think everyone is saying that. So we've reached nearly the end of our opening session, and I'm very relieved that it is not my task to summarize what has taken place today, but instead it is my duty to introduce Mr. Joao Campari, whom most of us know as the leader of the global food practice under WWF. Mr. Joao, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Your Excellencies, I'd like to thank especially His Excellency Tran Lu Quang to welcome all of us into his beautiful country and for his hospitality. So thank you very much. It is clear that we are in a critical moment for the future of food systems everywhere and for the future of our planet and the people that it hosts. So we meet this week in advance of the UN Food System Summit stocktaking, which will provide us with a clearer understanding of whether or not we are on our way to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And the only way, as we all in this room know, to achieve the 2030 SDGs is by adopting ambitious actions to transform food systems with urgency and scale that are needed. 2 years ago, as we were preparing the UN Food System Summit itself, I wrote a blog and spoke about the last 9 harvests that separated us from then until 2030. And the fact that we had a very limited amount of time in which to make changes to avoid potentially irreversible damages to our planet. The reality is that while some progress has been made, as it was referred to here in the panel and by my dear friend Esther, some progress has been made, but there has been nowhere near enough action. And we now have only 7 harvests to go until 2030. And it's on us now to implement actions with the urgency and the scale that are needed to transform food systems. So we immediately need to stop playing a food puzzle with the planet and begin to focus on implementing the solutions and the actions that are needed to resolve this puzzle, right? So solving this puzzle means providing everyone with enough healthy and nutritious food, but within planetary boundaries. And that means that we need to protect and restore nature that has been degraded. We need to limit food-based greenhouse gas emissions so that global warming stays within the limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius. What has perhaps complicated things for us is that we have been looking at challenges from a singular global lens, as if there were one global food system. But the fact is that for meaningful actions to actually happen and be impactful, we need to zoom in. We need to downscale our focus to national and subnational food systems and support stakeholders in creating transformation pathways that are context-specific. As we heard before, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Pathways and solutions will look different in different places we look at. So at WWF, we have launched for this event, we developed a framework to support stakeholders and countries to develop national development or national level plans for food systems transformation, helping them to identify which actions have the highest potential for the impact they want to achieve in their countries. To aid this identification, we have developed and continue to refine food systems typologies, which groups countries based on food production systems, consumption patterns, food security, and environmental factors like biodiversity and carbon stocks. While global contexts need to be downscaled by grouping countries that share similarities among them, they can learn from each other, which is one reason why conferences like these are so important. So through this week, to the UN Food System Summit stock-taking and beyond, I urge all of us to consider how we deliver truly transformative national level actions. It will require closing several gaps that we are often guilty of overlooking. Firstly, we need to close the ambition gap. And this means that national targets need to be informed by science to ensure they are ambitious enough to actually bring food systems within planetary boundaries. There is often an ambition gap between targets that are set and what is actually needed for a healthy and sustainable food system. Secondly, we need to close the transformation gap. This means that countries must ensure they are prioritizing transformation through impactful actions, and that they are aligned with existing policy processes like, for instance, the climate and disease. Transformation gaps occur when critical actions are overlooked or others that are less impactful are prioritized. And thirdly and lastly, we need to close the implementation gap. The right ecosystem of support needs to be built with the right partners working together to deliver the right actions through the right policy processes. Otherwise, we will see implementation gaps as plans that are made don't translate into effective action on the ground and in the water for nature, climate, and people. So, ambition, alignment of policy and action, and partnerships will be crucial to delivering transformative plans to work at the national level and deliver national level impact. It's great to be in Vietnam. It's my first time in the country, and to experience yet another unique food culture with its own challenges and its own opportunities. As we can see, food systems different from place to place, so it's wonderful to experiment and experience firsthand all Vietnam has to offer. And as we consider our own food systems in our own countries and our own contributions to solving the great food puzzle, let's keep thinking about how we close the gaps and ensure the next 7 harvests that separates us from 2030 result in a healthy and sustainable future for all. So I wish everyone here a wonderful and productive event and a great stay in Vietnam. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Mr. Campari. Joao's speech reminds me of, you know, when we are taking the trains, and of course, there's always the announcer in the BTS or the MRT that says, mind the gap when you get out of the train. So he's not saying just mind the gap, but close the gap, right? So in closing the gap, we have reached the closing of the opening ceremonies as well. And so it is my wonderful duty to close the ceremony, remind you of lunch, which I think the organizers will direct you once you go out of where it is going to be. And also to remind you that we actually will get to work starting this afternoon after lunch. And so getting to work means we start the discussion at the global governance level, and that will be session 2, and more announcements on that will be given outside by the organizers. So thank you again, and welcome to everyone. So thank you. And welcome.